I thought, wow, maybe I could one day aspire to sing as she did when she had her very worst moment ever in her whole life, because still her worst moments, her most challenged moments, her most compromised moments are better than 99.999% of the population that's ever lived. And we should be so lucky, you know, as to have her bad day. Everybody came to work every day out of this love for her. It was sort of like the grips and the camera guys and all the crew and all the background artists, and every one of us was there every day to celebrate her. It was like everyone embraced not just the legend of Judy Garland, but this beautiful woman who deserved the world's love, and she deserved the protection that she didn't get at that time in her life, and she deserved to be protected from ever having been maligned in the press or lampooned or made small. And it was sort of like this entire collection of a couple hundred people were just holding her up every day and cheering. And 50 years after her passing, it was such a beautiful thing to be part of, that she mattered so much to so many people, and she touched the lives of so many people internationally, across generational lines and cultural lines, that even today there's this strength of feeling that we want to show her the love that she shared with all of us. And boy, what a special experience that was. People, you know, she's beloved, you know, across generational lines, cultural lines, internationally revered as arguably the greatest entertainer who's ever lived, and one of the most beloved personalities. Just a very special human being, never mind that she's 1 in 10 million. So no pressure. But it felt like a story worth telling. Not necessarily in the traditional biographical sense, where you begin with childhood and here's what she did, and then here's what she did, and here's what she accomplished, in the sort of, I guess, traditional biopic experience, but to look at those in-between moments that seem to get left out when you're telling the story of a person you think you know, because you know she had this experience and she achieved this and there was this really great moment, and then you read first-hand accounts and other people's anecdotes about what their experiences were in working with her or in having known her, or you know, as you do with any person of historical significance, you think, but what else? And when you look at a person who is so highly revered and at the same time, I think, misunderstood in a lot of respects, there's something missing in the telling of her story. Having lived a tiny bit of it, having a public persona, there's always little things that aren't said that I think can be sort of paramount in really understanding what leads from one place in a person's life to another. To even come close to her worst night's performance was going to take a lot of work. And yeah, and you know, so I just figured we'd start a year ago and work regularly to see if there was any truth to the myth that you really can strengthen your vocal cords like a muscle, like any other muscle. And while that may be true, there were a lot of bumps in the road and lessons to be learned about the craft of performance and singing on that level. I had no idea what that takes, because someone like Judy makes it look so easy and effortless. And you can understand why people might not realize the toll it takes, the physical toll that delivering on that level so consistently for so many years could take. It's so strange because, you know, it seems so audacious if you look at it just on a surface level. I mean, I had many moments in the car when, you know, for that whole year it was Judy riding shotgun, you know, and her music and listening to her speaking and the stories and the whole thing. Who do you think you are? And I thought, well, you know what? You know, there's a reason why we're telling her story 50 years after her passing. And I thought the next person whose story is worth telling 50 years after her passing is not going to be playing someone else. Somebody's going to be playing her. So just pull your boots up and go learn some things and just do it. He's fantastic. He's a mad genius, you know. Disappears into his head and he's seeing all of these things, visualizing what it's going to be. And I think what I loved most was that he's so patient. And I don't mean just with the process, but I mean in what he's collecting. I think that it would be impossible to capture the loneliness and the isolation and the, I think, difficulty of Judy's experience during this period of time without letting things play. And I know especially today there's a tendency to kind of hurry it up and chop it up and get to the point, but he lets things linger so that you can be alone with her and put yourself in those situations, those in-between moments that you don't really consider when you're thinking about the experience of Judy Garland's life or an icon of that stature and what it means to live that life. I could talk about Finn Wittrock all day, and sometimes I do. He's wonderful. What a wonderful actor. I mean, and he's just so charming, and he has charisma that, I mean, you see him coming a mile away and it just leaps off the screen. But to say that that's it would be to sell him short completely. He always surprised us. I mean, brought some genius into the room every time, and I cannot wait to see what happens in his career, because I think he's going to touch so many people with the work that he does in his life.